Привет всем, с вами я, Janey, и это How Janey Learned Russian. Are you ready to talk to our imaginary Russian friends? I love a good chat with my Russian friends. I get out those соленые огурцы, I get out some водичка, водички. Um, let's get ready to have a party let's go to the banya. How about that? Let's all go sit in the banya with our imaginary Russian friends, and we're going to practice our prepositional case with our Russian friends. Again, what I taught you in yesterday's lesson about ChatGPT. If you're struggling to think, okay, what are all these questions I could ask? Try it out over on ChatGPT. Tell ChatGPT to pretend to be Vladimir Lenin. Tell ChatGPT to pretend to be Yuri Gagarin. Again, I want you practicing, like, again, thinking, how could I keep this conversation going? And then you anticipate what they might answer, and you think, oh, I need to anticipate how they're going to answer and make sure I understand every aspect of their answer so then I can ask a good follow-up question. Again, this is how you learn the language. So let's talk about our imaginary Russian friends. I told you I just freaking love ChatGPT right now. He's my other best friend, my лучший дружок, and he generated this beautiful picture for me. So that's what you saw on the thumbnail. There I am with my imaginary Russian friends. We're having a big group hug. We had a great time in the banya, all talking to each other, and now we're saying goodbye. Это всё на сегодня. We'll see each other next chapter, won't we, once we get to accusative case. In the meantime, here's what I talked about with my imaginary friends in the banya, and I want you to start thinking of what would you ask all of these people. Leave it in the comments below. Okay, so our first one is, and again, all these questions are going to need prepositional case. The question is going to need prepositional case. The answer is going to need prepositional case. Here we go. So, Yuri Gagarin, I would say, где вы живете? And I'm all over the place with whether I'm speaking formally or informally with them. Где вы живете? В каких штатах, странах вы были? And he says, я умер. I died. I'm dead. Но я жил в Советском Союзе и был в космосе. Okay, so based on how he answered, он жил в Советском Союзе и он был в космосе. Обалдеть, он был в космосе. And I'm like, what? I mean, how many people can tell you they've been in space? So I say, в космосе, круто. А вы были на Луне тоже? Okay, so, and were you on the moon too? Нет, на Луне нет. Но я был первый человек в истории, который был в космосе. Блин, обалдеть, первый человек в истории. Вот, so now I kind of change the subject over here. I say, в каком году вы умерли? What year did you die in? Notice all of these are forcing prepositional case. О, жалко, в каком году вы умерли? And then he tells me, again, I loved that somebody in the comments on my last Imaginary Friends video said, you wouldn't be able to speak with Peter the Great because he didn't speak, he spoke an ancient version of Russian. Well, also they're dead, So again, this is all very, very imaginary, people. This is all very imaginary. I really don't think I'm ever going to get to speak with Yuri Gagarin at any point in my existence. Anyway, so he tells me, я умер в 1968 году в авиационной катастрофе. Oh, look at all that beautiful prepositional case, and we understand. Okay, so we understand the year thanks to this chapter on prepositional case, and we see aviacja. Okay, so something with aviation, катастрофе. Oh, that sounds like catastrophe. Oh, and then you go and you Google it and you're like, oh yeah, sure enough, Gagarin died in an airplane accident kind of thing, okay? My other branch on this conversation tree is, что вы сказали о Земле, когда вы были в космосе, right? And this is all me kind of having this be edutainment. But I say, what did you say about the Earth when you were in space? Что вы сказали о Земле, когда вы были в космосе? So you guys know his famous phrase was поехали, right? So like, let's do it, let's fly, let's do this. That was his famous words as he was flying into space. But he did also say this. Я сказал, я вижу землю, она так прекрасна. I see the earth, she's so beautiful, she's so lovely. Да, вот, и это точно. Это факты, кстати, это факты. Okay, our next imaginary friend is Tchaikovsky, right? So I would be interested to know. And I don't know why I've suddenly started speaking informally with him, probably just to model the different formats with you guys. Ты играешь на музыкальном инструменте? And Tchaikovsky Петр Ильич сказал, я играл на флейте. Да, я играл на флейте. Okay, all right, you played the flute. I don't know nothing about the flute. I really don't know where to go with that. So I asked this. Еще на каких инструментах вы играете? Right? Like, what other instruments do you play? Please say you play one that I am going to be able to understand. And he says, на фортепиано, конечно. So, of course, he had to play the piano in order to compose. Я пишу музыку на нем. So, I write music on him. I write music on the fortepiano, the piano. My follow-up question to that is, на каком инструменте вы плохо играете? Again, I'm trying to base all of this on facts. And so I read up on these people, and now I'm just converting it to a level of Russian that you'd be able to understand. So he says, на скрипке люблю ее, но не играю на ней. And again, notice the way I'm phrasing this to help you get practice with those pronouns, etc. So he played the violin horribly, but he loved it. He wanted to incorporate it into a lot of his music, so he'd have to hire people to come in to help him out with the anything on the violin or string instruments. Вот. Another direction I took, another branch on this conversation tree is, о чем ваш балет Щелкунчик? Щелкунчик. Okay, so that's Nutcracker. And he says, это о девочке Марии и ее игрушках. Right? So we have the dance of the various dolls and the sugar plum fairies and the toy soldiers. And I say, это о Новом годе? Notice we don't say о Новом году, because году is only for in the year. When we're saying about the year, it gets that regular ye ending. Я слышала, что это о Новом годе. And he said, ну, не совсем. Это о Рождестве. This was based on German Christmas. So it has become a New Year's thing in Russia because they stopped celebrating Christmas. But it is based off of German traditions for Christmas. Вот. Очень интересный факт, правда ведь? Вот. Следующий друг. Ой, я очень люблю этого друга. Он у меня самый лучший. Мы как две капли воды. Да, мы очень любим друг друга. I guarantee you he had ADHD just like I did, and we would have conquered the world together if we were friends. So, I say, на каких языках ты говоришь? People, I highly recommend a biography of Peter the Great. It's just such a fascinating human being. And he's like me. He was just drawn to foreign languages, drawn to foreign countries, and just wanted to escape his boring little town of Moscow. So, я говорил, past tense, я говорил по-русски, по-немецки, по-английски, по-голландски и по-французски. He taught himself. He just went out, hung out with all the Germans down in the German part of town and just learned all of these things all by himself. So those of you who are teaching yourself languages, Peter the Great would have been your good friend. Вот. And then I follow up, I say, как интересно. Вы много знаете о языках? Do you know a lot about languages? And then he was a man of many trades, so he says, да, много знаю о языках, о кораблях, о медицине, короче, обо всем знаю, right? Which is Peter the Great, he really did. He knew about everything. Read his biography, and he was very confident, as you can see. Обо всем знаю. I know about everything. Да. Okay, other branch of this conversation tree. Вы были в этих странах? Right? So, have you been to those countries? В Германии, в Голландии. Вот. Вы были в этих странах? Да, я был во многих европейских странах. Я был в Голландии, в Дании, во Франции, в Англии и много чего. Right? So it's called the Великое посольство, the great geez, I don't even know how to say that in English. But it's essentially he goes to all of Western Europe kind of as a representative of Russia and then tries to learn from them. He doesn't just go there and like try and prove that Russia is better than them. He goes there and he learns how to build ships with the Dutch. He learns all about medicine. It's just incredible. Like, just seriously, if you're a person who's teaching yourself a language, he's gonna be по душе. He's gonna like be a man of your heart, or I don't even know how to say that in English. My gosh, what is wrong with me? Anyway, so вот такие дела. Okay, Lenin. And again, I have an ongoing joke all throughout the textbook with Lenin. The only thing he cares about in the whole world is the Great October Revolution. So, and I amuse myself. This is strictly for my own entertainment. So I ask Lenin, and I've switched to informal for some reason. О чем ты часто думаешь? And sure enough, Lenin says, о великой Октябрьской коммунистической революции! Exclamation point, explanation point, explanation point. So again, he's always only ever talking about the Great Revolution. So, and then I said, I've asked him a follow-up question. Почему ты много думаешь об этой революции? Да, почему ты много думаешь об этой революции? And then it's all in жирном шрифте, it's all in bold caps, and he says, потому что она самая важная революция в истории! Exclamation point. Okay, again, this is all for my own entertainment. Then I ask another question, right? Где была эта революция? Okay. So where all did this revolution take place? Is it really just in Leningrad, or was it happening all throughout the country? And he says, в Ленинграде, в Москве, во всех городах России скоро будет и в вашей стране. Да здравствует коммунизм! Oh, the nerd in me has been set free, and she's going crazy right now. I'm sorry. So yes, да здравствует коммунизм means long live communism. Anyway, I amuse myself, as you can see. Okay, last friend, and I don't call him a friend. It would be more just somebody who I'm cautiously curious about. What would I say to this man? I don't want to get too close. But I am curious to know about him, right? And I've read his biography too, and I highly recommend that. That's also interesting because you see that there's some things about him that were actually admirable and good, and so on and so forth. Okay. I ask, Иосиф Виссарионович, где ты родился, где ты работаешь? Now he's going to speak in past tense. Я родился в Грузии. Я работал в коммунистической партии. And then I have some follow-up questions. I'm like, how fascinating that we're speaking Russian. I thought you were Georgian. So I say, на каком языке ты говорил в детстве? Right? And he says, дома мы говорили по-грузински. Да, мама и папа говорили по-грузински. Но в школе мы говорили по-русски. This was kind of Russian Empire, very influenced by the Russian Empire. So a lot of people would have been learning Russian in school. And I say, о, у вас есть акцент, когда ты говоришь по-русски? And he says, да, есть. And then sure enough, I went over to my дружок, ChatGPT, and I said, can you provide some examples of Stalin speaking with an accent? ChatGPT linked me to videos and then explained what's happening in his accent that sounds very Georgian. It's super interesting. Again, дружок ChatGPT, он наш дружок, он наш чебурашка, okay? And then I want to say, oh, okay, well, you lived at such a critical time in history. I wonder what countries he's been to. В каких странах ты был? Да? Again, I don't know what I'm thinking speaking informally to Stalin, but I'm trying to model for you some of the different verb conjugations. And he says, я не люблю путешествовать. Это точно, кстати. Like Yalta was the farthest he was gonna go. He was at the Yalta conference. Я был только в 4 странах. Вот. В Иране, в Грузии, в России и в Германии он был. Вот. And then I follow up. А в Америке был? Ты был в Америке? And he says, да нет, of course not. But интересный факт that I learned from my biography, но моя дочь там жила. По-моему, в штате Айове. Да? И там умерла, но никто не знал, что это дочь Сталина. Представляете? Как интересно. Again, all of this is based in facts, and I've just simplified it so that you learners can understand it. But this is super fun. Again, I really like the imaginary Russian friend because as I read these biographies, I'm like, ooh, what would I want to say to Stalin? What would I want to say to Catherine the Great, right? And it's super fun to realize, dude, you could speak their language. This person that you're so interested in, you wouldn't need a translator standing between the two of you. You guys could have a conversation back and forth. Again, assuming you would ever get to meet them. And by the way, 17th century Russian is actually not that different from modern Russian, so just put that in your peep and smock it. Anyway, so вот, это все на сегодня. Увидимся на следующем уроке. Please leave the comments down below. Who is that fascinating Russian you would want to have a conversation with? And what questions would you ask? Гагарин, Чайковский, Петр Великий. What would you ask them? Хорошо, это все на сегодня. Пока-пока.